We were talking about the various aspects of the Indian Constitution. I think with the last session was about the Vice President of India. We had discussed at length what the President's office is all about and its powers and who can be the President, and also the role of the Vice President and what it means. When you go through the Constitution of India, constitutionally speaking, the President is a very powerful post. Many things in the country rest on him. In many places, the President of India just called a rubber stamp. President of India is not a rubber stamp. Officially, has got a lot of powers which he can exercise as and when needed. When there's a constitutional crisis, the President has got various kinds of roles to play. Now, more precisely, now I just go through Article 74, 75 of the Indian Constitution, which talks about the Council of Ministers. According to the power hierarchy of constitutionally speaking, the president is the most powerful person. Next is the vice president. Next comes the prime minister of India, and under that comes the council of ministers. Article 74, 75 of the Indian Constitution talks about the council of ministers, and there's another role which is very important, which acts alongside the president of India regarding legal matters, called as the Attorney General of India. Article 76 of the Constitution talks of the Attorney General of India. Now, I hope I'm doing justice to the study of the Constitution of India. We have a very well written Constitution which is elaborated and in detail, though there is scope for developing it, improving it even further. Now, let us see something about this Council of Ministers of India. Council of Ministers to aid and advise President. Article 74 of the Indian Constitution. There shall be a Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister at their head to aid and advise the President, who shall, in the exercise of the functions, act in accordance with such advice. The Council of Ministers have a role to advise the President on various aspects about the running of the country. Now, this is about Council of Ministers. That means, along with the Prime Minister of India, there will be a Council of Ministers who advise and aid the President in matters of governance. Now there are other provisions as to ministers. Article 75, other provisions of the Council of Ministers. This is very important here. The Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President, and other ministers shall be appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. Such a very important statement. Prime Minister will be appointed by the President. That's what I told you. President of India's office is a very powerful office. It's not to be taken lightly. It's a very powerful office. A lot of power is centered in that office. Any person who is working as a President of India, within a matter of 2-3 months, will understand the full power that is bestowed to his office. I think my bow tie is standing properly. Okay. Now, now it's standing properly. Now, this is more important thing. The President appoints the Prime Minister. The Council of Ministers are also appointed by the President under the advice of the Prime Minister. Very important constitutional provision. Article 75 of the Constitution. The total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister in the Council of Ministers, shall not exceed 15% of the total number of members of the House of the People. If there are 100 MPs, more than 15 people cannot be ministers, including Prime Minister. One Prime Minister is 1%. That means only 14 people can be said as ministers. 15%. That you can take on to the present strength of the Lok Sabha. House of the People means Lok Sabha. Of course, there are many other provisions given here. There's a very important statement here The ministers shall hold office during the pleasure of the president. That means if the president withdraws pleasure regarding the working of any minister, he can no longer be the minister. Very important statement here. This is a dispute about V.K. Krishnamenon, who was Defence Minister of India. I think he was removed from that post by the then President of India, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan sir. Please check up the matter. Withdrawal of pleasure after Chinese aggression. That is the power of the president. He can remove a minister if he wants. Withdrawal of pleasure. Very important statement. Uh, Now, okay, there are many other things under this Article 75 of the Indian Constitution. Um, okay, there are many other things. The salaries and allowances of the ministers shall be such as President may from time to time by law determine and and until Parliament so determines shall be as specified by the second schedule, whatever it means. What it means, President has a role to play even in the remuneration of the ministers involved therein. Of course, this talks about the Council of Ministers. President appoints Prime Minister. President appoints ministers. Minister can continue only at the pleasure of the President. Including the Prime Minister, the total number of ministers cannot be more than 15% of the strength of the Lok Sabha. And there are many other. It's a simple things what this Article 74 and 75 of the Indian Constitution says. Now there are many more things you can go through that, but still these are the key things. Next comes to Article 76 of the Indian Constitution, Attorney General, very important post. Mr. K.K. Venugopal was the Attorney General to Government of India. Mr. K.K. Venugopal is the son of a distinguished lawyer by name Barrister M.K. Nambiar. And I don't want to hide the fact K.K. Venugopal is the cousin of my mother. I don't want to hide that fact. That's a fact. Now, let us see what is the Attorney General all about. Article 76 of the Indian Constitution. The President shall appoint a person who is qualified to be appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court to the Attorney General post of India. That means, whoever appointed post of Attorney General of Government of India must have the qualifications to be a Supreme Court judge. It shall be the duty of the Attorney General to give advice to the Government of India upon the legal matters and to perform such other duties of a legal character as may from time to time. Let's see the role of Attorney General. Very by Article 76 of the Indian Constitution. He gives legal advice to the government. In the performance of the duties of the Attorney General shall have right of audience in all courts in the territory of India. The Attorney General shall hold office during the pleasure of the President and shall receive such remuneration as the President may determine. Say, this Lord Attorney General is a very important role. Many people don't understand. Some of the things that we study here, this is in the Article 76 of the Indian Constitution, which talks about the Attorney General. Attorney General appointed by President. Attorney General gives legal advice to the government. Attorney General, who should be Attorney General? He must at least he must have the qualifications to be Judge of the Supreme Court of India. The remuneration of the Attorney General is determined by the President. This is very important. In the performance of his duties, Attorney General have right of all audience in all courts in the territory of India. I hope you understand what this precisely means. Attorney General has an audience. If Attorney General wants to communicate something to the courts of India, All the courts of India means the members of the courts means the judges of the courts, the lawyers must have his audience. He can, to a large extent, make certain blanket laws which are binding on the courts of India. It could be what could be read from this. He not only just gives advice to the government of India, he has also got the audience of the, including the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India. Attorney General must be having some say on this. No, he has the power to give some inputs. And the remuneration of Attorney General of India will be determined by the president. Very good. See, today we just saw the role of Attorney General of the Government of India, Article 76 of the Indian Constitution. Now, I don't know, Article 77, 78 of the Indian Constitution. 77 says conduct of business of Government of India. Uh, see here, see, I told you, the President of India role is very powerful. Article 7 of the Constitution, all executive action of the Government of India shall be expressed to be taken in the name of the President. That means all executive orders are taken in the name of the President. Uh, okay, there are many things. See, it's very important. Again, over and over, it shows the power of the presidency. I'll tell you again, Article 7 of the Indian Constitution. The President shall make rules for the more convenient transaction of the business of the Government of India and for the allocation among ministers of the said business. That means he can suggest how government is run. He can make certain suggestions. He can make some rules, certain how certain things should go, how it should work. And it can be imposed on the council ministers. Conduct of business, the power of the president. Article 78, duties of the Prime Minister as respects of furnishing of information to the President. Relation Article 78 of the Constitution shows the official relationship between Prime Minister and President of India. Article 76. The Prime Minister has to commit to the President all decisions of the Council of Ministers relating to the administration of the affairs of the Union and proposals for legislature. That means the President of India must be briefed. Shall call for, okay, whatever it means. If the President so requires, to submit for the consideration of the Council of Ministers any matter on which a decision has been taken by the Minister but which has not been considered by the Council. Prime Minister can directly give certain recommendations, though they have not been addressed by the Council of Ministers. President can take a decision or certain inputs into such kind of situations. But very important thing is Article 78 of the Indian Constitution is the Prime Minister to communicate to President all decisions of the Council of Ministers relating to the administration of the affairs of the Union and proposals for legislation. I mean, whatever decision Prime Minister of India takes, the Council of Ministers takes, he has to inform it to the President of India. So please understand, President of India's role is not just a rubber stamp role. It is in principle, in the constitutional, is a very powerful post. Now, okay, this is what you have done. Article 76 of the Constitution of India. There should be Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister is appointed by the President. The President in turn appoints Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers should not be, an entire minister should not be more than 15% of the strength of the Lok Sabha. Now, okay, the Council of Ministers are appointed to the advice of the Prime Minister. These are things that we're saying is Article 74, 75 of the Indian Constitution. 76 of the Institution Constitution, there is an Attorney General of the Government of India who advises the Government of India on legal matters. Who can be Attorney General of the Government of India? He must be the qualification to be the Supreme Court judge. Attorney General of India gives advice on legal matters, appointed by the President. Pleasure of the President, he continue on the job at pleasure of the President. His remuneration also decided by the President. Is there any other factor that we have? All courts, very important. All courts in India can have an audience of the Attorney General of the Government of India. That means, audience means he calls for some meeting with some judges. I think that the constitutionally, the judges have to be present there to say what the Attorney General is saying. So that's a powerful post. He's almost a Attorney General. He's almost a President of India with a legal garb. He gets the powers for his post from the President's office, and has got a lot of legal roles to play. He can even advise it there now. Mm, even with out of the textbook roles. He can advise the Prime Minister, he can go to the office of the Prime Minister, he can talk certain things, he can change laws, he can suggest new laws, again with the support and pleasure of the President. Now, these are the things that we were talking about. Now, conduct of business account of India, all executive action of President of India, Government of India is taken them in the name of President. Yeah, the President has got the power. Our Constitutional Minister makes certain rules and certain deviations. Prime Minister must periodically brief the President of India about the various uh, decisions taken by the ministers, constitutional ministers. He has to brief the President periodically. I don't know how periodical it is, but there must be some official communication which has been there, formal form of formats which he must communicate. So with that, we have understood what basically the powers of the President are. The next area is the Parliament, which we will take up later. I hope you're understanding Constitution of India and many other roles around which it works. Thank you very much. This is P.O. Subhash from Bangalore, India.